What's up, everyone? This is Josh Rubin for East West Healing. Today I want to talk about how elevated cholesterol is a marker for hypothyroidism. But before we jump in, as always, please like this video, show us a little support. Please hit that notification button and subscription button so every single Wednesday when we put out a video, you get notified. Let's jump in. Now, Broda Barnes was one of the many pioneers when you talk about thyroid health. And one of his kind of like most important, quoted facts was elevated cholesterol is a marker for hypothyroidism, right? And, 10 years ago, I was like, whoa, that is crazy. So if someone has high cholesterol, it means that they're not converting T4 to T3. And it means they have a thyroid issue. It's really not a cholesterol issue, right? And over the years, I never really questioned it. I am a why person. I just kept digging, why? And it really kind of came or clicked in my head, I would say 5 to 6 years ago, why that actually makes a lot of sense. And here is the reason why elevated cholesterol is a marker for hypothyroidism, right? So kind of follow along with me because it is kind of technical, but I will explain it the best I can. Of course, anytime you see elevated cholesterol, you think inflammation. The body only produces cholesterol when it is needed to help you fight stress. Stress is when the demands being placed on the system exceed what the system can handle. Number two, anytime you see a thyroid issue, right, think stress in the system. Anytime your biology is thrown off, there's stress in the system. You are not giving your body what it needs, and nature cannot do the rest, because you're not supplying your body with what it needs every single day to meet the demands that are being placed on your system. It is that simple, right? Hans Selye talked about this. He was the gentleman that coined the term stress, and that all diseases originate from stress. And I truly believe this. And I don't mean just like I'm stressed because of my finances, right? Some of us are stressed, we don't even know it. And physiologically, what this means is stress externally turns to oxidative stress internally, right? It means that the demands being placed on your system exceed what your system can handle. It means that you only have $1,000 in your bank account and you went to charge $5,000 buying a new e-bike. It's that simple. You're spending more than you have. This creates a stress physiologically in the system. And now you start accruing debt day after day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And before you know it, that money that you had, you're now $1 million in debt. And this is why people feel like crap. So here's how it works. You have a protein called the T-chair protein, the major sites of the liver and the choroid plexus in the central nervous system. This protein is naturally loaded with T4, which is an active thyroid hormone, and retinol that we get from our foods, which is vitamin A. Organ meats of any kind, fatty fish, salmon, herring, mackerel, sardines, clean dairy, and clean eggs. The problem is most people don't eat enough protein. I haven't met one person in 22 years that comes to me eating enough protein to meet their needs. And number two, most people eat chicken and eggs. Maybe they throw in fish once a week. We just don't get enough protein. We don't get a variety of protein. And of course, the quality that people are getting is just 3 thumbs down. So there's many reasons, but this is an important protein because it's loaded with retinol and T4. It's carried to the liver, which is a major site for thyroid hormone conversion. Yes, you convert into other peripheral tissues, but the major site is the liver. Vitamin A helps with many things like loading copper into peptides and proteins to produce ceruloplasmin so we can activate oxygen and produce energy. But retinol actually activates thyroid hormone receptors and supports iron recycling and many other biological functions. So it's really important that this protein is loaded with retinol so we can convert thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone can be used in the cell to produce energy, but that T3, that's that end result of thyroid hormone conversion, is an oxygen sensor, and it stimulates the liver to produce more ceruloplasmin so it can activate oxygen, use T3 again to produce energy, and all your copper-rich antioxidants. Copper-rich antioxidants are like firemen that put out the fires, whether it's from chronic stress, oxidative stress turns into inflammation, turns into calcification, right? Helps you fight stress, but there's many things in the body like energy production, thyroid hormone conversion, etc., that produces free radicals. And when you have these copper-rich antioxidants like catalase, superoxide dismutase, cytochrome oxidase, etc., it allows you to just eliminate those from the process of energy production, etc. Now, the problem arises when you don't load the protein with retinol and it's just loaded with T4. Now, in simple terms, you can't convert thyroid hormone, right? What happens? There's increased oxidative stress and an uptake in cholesterol. Why? Because T3 can't stimulate the liver to produce ceruloplasmin, which activates oxygen and copper-rich antioxidants. There's oxidative stress in the system because there's a disproportionate relationship between copper now. That's ceruloplasmin. When copper is here, we produce those copper-rich antioxidants, right? Which allows us to put out the fire, which will allow cholesterol to come down, allow us to produce thyroid hormone, allow us to produce bioavailable copper, and really put out the fires where needed. But if we're not loading that protein and we don't produce enough T3, which is an oxygen sensor, through stimulating the liver to produce ceruloplasmin, we can't activate oxygen. Essentially, we're copper deficient or ceruloplasmin deficient, which is bioavailable copper, right? Because copper that's stored in the liver, or I should say retinol, grabs the copper that's stored in the liver and in a nutshell metabolizes it, loads it into ceruloplasmin, which is bioavailable copper, right? And we need that to produce these copper-rich antioxidants. So if we don't have enough T3 or enough retinol, that copper or ceruloplasmin goes down. We have a ceruloplasmin deficiency. We have this uptick in cholesterol because we're not producing the antioxidants that we need, which is oxidative stress, right? And the body responds to that by producing more cholesterol. And this is why Broda Barnes said elevated cholesterol is a marker for hypothyroidism. In simple terms, no T3, or you're not converting because of chronic stress, not essentially a thyroid issue, but maybe it's excess cortisol. Maybe it's a selenium deficiency. Maybe it's a zinc deficiency. Maybe it's a copper deficiency. Maybe it's a retinol deficiency. All these different things. If you don't produce T3, you can't produce ceruloplasmin, you can't activate oxygen, you can't produce copper-rich antioxidants. You have low ceruloplasmin, increased oxidative stress, which causes an uptick in cholesterol. So, as I said, this is a lot to take in, but it's that complex and that simple at the same time. I'm not saying ignore your cholesterol. There's a lot of things you can do nutritionally. There's a lot of things you can do movement-wise that are important. Getting outside, having more fun, eating retinol-rich foods, copper-rich foods, metabolic foods, laying off the processed foods, etc., that you can do to support reducing inflammation. Don't chase the cholesterol. It's about reducing inflammation, but supporting the body in a way so it can load that protein so you can produce those copper-rich antioxidants, so you can also reduce that oxidative stress internally as you're reducing the stress externally. And at the same time, you're going to regulate thyroid health, right? You're going to produce energy. You're going to produce copper-rich antioxidants, which is money in the bank, which is paying off debt. So over time, you reduce that inflammation, you reduce that oxidative stress, which will naturally reduce your cholesterol. Why? Because as I mentioned, anytime the body is stressed or inflamed, cholesterol goes up. So if you reduce it, cholesterol is going to naturally go down. So that's the lesson for today. Eat your metabolic rich foods, right? Your different proteins, of course, fruits, roots, things like that too. But eat more retinol rich foods, eat more copper rich foods, bring more protein in your diet to support your body's different biological functions. Because if you give the body what it needs, nature's going to do the rest. It's that simple. As always, thanks for tuning in. I'm out.